Hello everybody, how we doing today? Welcome back to another build video. So my name is Barber223, and if you haven't seen the channel before, we're going to go through a build video today. We're going to do character screen, we're going to do gear, and we're going to do skills, and we're going to do CP. Alright, so just a heads up, this build is a magic range Templar build. Alright, the build works in CP and no CP, almost. Alright, in no CP you're going to have to make one change, but that's it. In CP, you don't have to change anything, of course, because it's CP. Alright, so overall, I think this build is ridiculous. I was dueling with it the other day, and people were just messaging me raging, getting so mad at me, saying he only died because of lag, blah, 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 whatever. The point is, this build is fire. It's really, really good. The healing is ridiculous. The sustain is ridiculous. And the burst damage can just... You can sit there healing and healing and healing while someone pressures you, and you get that one combo, and they're done. Alright, so it's a really good build. In BGs, it absolutely slaps because you're ranged, so you kind of stay out of the fight and just pick people off with Radiant Destruction and other things. Alright, so let's get into the character screen. So off the bat, here is what the base stats look like. Alright, so this is with no buffs. So, we have 23,500 magic. Alright, that's plenty. Especially because on this Templar, we have a ridiculous amount of recovery. Alright, so that 1300 you see is nowhere close to what it really is, and I will explain that when we get into it more. Health, we have 29.5. Again, this is not bad. It's not amazing, but with the healing power, it's perfectly fine. You can spec a little bit more into health if you want to. Totally up to you. Alright, so off the jump, we also have 5,300 spell damage and weapon damage before our buffs. Alright, we'll get a lot more than that. Spell crits 12%, which isn't a big deal. Our potions will give us some spell crit too, so don't worry about it. Pen 6,300 before we apply major breach and minor breach. Mind you, we get another, we get minor and major on this build. And then the resistances are about 20 to 21k each. And when you are fully buffed, that goes up to, let's see. So this is just for this. So we're at 27 and 26. Alright, so it's really not bad. You also could run Vigor if you want. What is that? Get away. You could run Vigor if you want. I have a flex spot, so it's not bad. Stamina's 14.5. So as you can see, we're up to 29,000 resistance. So the 29,000 is the back bar, and the 27 is the front bar. Alright, so because we have defending on our staff, just because I wanted that extra resistance. So we're at almost 30k resistance on the back bar, which is just absolutely solid. Alright, so we are also an Orc. To me, after thinking about it a little bit more, I think Orc is actually my favorite race. Orc is insane. Classes that don't have movement get extra movement speed for sprinting. They get spell damage. They get heals just for doing damage. Orc is solid. I really, really like Orc. So that's just how I feel about it. But so Jewels of Misrule is the food we're using. We're getting magic and stam recovery, and then we get health. This is, I believe, the Broke Man's version of Bear Haunch, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, and we are using the Atronach, and we are Vampire Stage 3. Stage 3 Vamp is kind of a must. Alright, so this is the screen just off the bat before we actually get buffed up. Alright, so let me get into the gear. So on the front bar, we have willpower. Now, you might be asking, why am I using willpower? Well, normally on this front bar, I would normally use a ring of trainee, and then I would use a master staff. But because we're on a Templar, and we really don't want, I don't want to use the master staff at all. Mostly because we're using javelin for our stun, and we don't really have the bar space to use the master staff dot. Not with the way our rotation works. I'm using willpower. Willpower kind of fills that void a little bit. Not completely, but pretty dang close. As you get into 200 weapon and spell damage, and Master Staff gives you 600 when you use a skill, we're getting 200 all the time. And then we get 1700 magic. Alright, so we're getting about, if you do the math, I forget what the exact math is, but I believe, give or take, about 1,000 magic is about 100 spell damage. If I'm not mistaken. You can correct me if I'm wrong. But so basically what I'm saying is willpower is not giving you that big of a drop off as you may think, especially because it's always up compared to the master staff that isn't always up. So That's how I feel about it. We are using Sharpen, and we are using an Inferno Staff for that single target burst. Alright, so we're using a poison, but if you weren't using a poison, we'd be using a shock glyph. Alright, that's what we're using on the front bar. Back bar, we're using a Restoration Staff of Willpower as well. Always a Berserker enchantment. Always a Berserker enchantment. Alright, here we go. Okay. Always a Berserker enchantment. And then we're using Defending. Alright, so Resto Staff is great for them, for the extra heals, for the Resto Wall, and just to get some extra magic back. Alright, so you might have already seen it. The monster set is Balorg. We're using a Triglyph if we can. We use Triglyphs. Impen is our trait, and Balorg is basically our bread and butter of what's going to get us kills. So the one piece is weapon and spell damage, and then when you use any ultimate ability, you gain weapon and spell damage equal to the ultimate consume and physical penetration and spell penetration 23 times the amount. So for 12 seconds, which is a pretty long time. So basically, you get a shit ton of damage when you use an ultimate. Now, it's not about the ultimate's cost, it's about how much ultimate you have built up. So Meteor costs 216 for me. If I build up 400 ultimate, I'm getting the Balorg bonus for 400, not 216. Alright, so you get a bonus based on how much ultimate you use. Now, if you're 1v1 in somebody, and you're like, I don't really think I'm going to kill them, I'm struggling to kill them, save up a little bit more ultimate before you pop your Meteor combo. That's how I try to do it in duels. So if I'm dueling somebody, I use my Meteor once. I didn't really get them to where I wanted them to be. I'm like, all right, let me save up, and usually that does the trick. So that's just my personal preference with it. You don't, let me know what you think down below. But that's what I do with Balorg. For me, on this build, it's an absolute must. I tried it without a monster set. Nah, Balorg is the vibes, bro. Balorg's the vibes. So if you are doing no CP, what I would do is drop one piece of Balorg, keep the shoulder piece, and then I would throw on Valken just to get some extra penetration. That's what I would do, personally. But Balorg's the vibes for us. Alright? So, the other 5-piece that we're using is Rattle Cage. Now, Rattle Cage isn't really much of a meta set, but it is a niche and it fills a role. So for me, Rattle Cage goes on anything that struggles to get their spell damage or if it struggles to fill up their bar spots. Alright, so basically what I'm saying is if we need the bar slots, alright, we need that extra slot to get another skill in the bar. This gets rid of our major sorcery buff. We don't need to use Degeneration, that's less buffing we have to do, but on top of it, it's heavy armor, so we get more resistance. And then we also get a lot of spell damage. Alright, so we're getting health, and then the rest of it is all spell damage, even the 5-piece. Alright, so you're getting spell damage, spell damage, spell damage, and then you get major brutality and sorcery all the time. So that's one less buff that you have to worry about. It's one less a skill you have to get in rotation, and it gives you spell damage on top of it. So for me, this set is incredible. I love it on DK, I love it on my Templar, and I love it on Necro. The other classes have access to that kind of thing, so you'd be wasting it. Like Warden has the Netch, Sork has their hands, the shock hands, and then Arcanist, I believe, has their own. So yeah, you know, it's really good on sets, builds that need it. So for me, it's perfect. Then we're using a Shoulder of Balorg, medium, and then we're using Rattle Cage on the body. Now, what you want. Oh no, I have something blue. Someone commented in the last video, if it's blue, I'm not looking. Yeah, well, don't watch, I guess, sorry. So we're using Rattle Cage on the body, and we're using Balorg on the body. The last thing we're using is one piece of Trainee. Now, ideally, you want heavy on the big pieces, but at the end of the day, I already had this, so I threw it on, and it didn't make much of a difference. In an ideal world, you want to switch Rattle Cage Girdle, and you want to switch the legs, so you get a light waist of Trainee, and then you get a heavy leg piece of Rattle Cage. But that is okay. So what you really want is maybe well fitted on the small pieces, and then you can get Impen or Reinforced on the big pieces. I would probably go Reinforced on the legs and the chest and the feet if you can. Other than that, it's not the biggest deal in the world. So yeah, it's personal preference. So Rattle Cage is what we're using. So I believe we have the chest, the waist, the hands, the feet, and we have a ring. Alright, so that's what we're using. Rattle Cage, one piece of Trainee on the body. And then down here, we have a Rattle Cage necklace. Alright, so we have the Rattle Cage necklace. And then we have the Willpower ring to get that 3-piece. And then lastly, we are using a Mythic. Now for me, this Mythic is great for exactly what I want in this build. I was struggling because I wanted to use Malakath because I wanted extra damage, but then I was missing out on some tankiness. Then I was thinking about using Sea Serpent, but I didn't want to be super slow, and I didn't want to have no tankiness with it. Then I tried to use Gaze of Sithis, and then I felt like I was lacking damage. So then I put this on. It gives me both. It gives me damage, it gives me healing, and it gives me armor. I felt like it was perfect for exactly what we want. And then using willpower got us that 3-piece bonus as well. So I thought that was great too. So if you were using the Master Staff, you wouldn't be able to use Balorg because you would need a 3-piece. Or you wouldn't be able to get a 3-piece with the Master Staff, and then Markin would be kind of wasted. So getting the 2 pieces with the willpower gives us another 100 spell damage and 1,000 armor. So for me, the willpower was perfect. Not only is it giving these bonuses, but it's giving another bonus of Markin Ring of Majesty. Alright, so for my build specifically, I love the Ring of Majesty. I think it's perfect for what I want to do. Alright, so we have 2 bonuses, and that's plenty. If we can get 3, geez, that'd be great, but in reality, we're not going to get it. Alright, so we are using 5 pieces of Rattle Cage, which it needs to be up at all times. We are using Balorg. We are using 1 piece of Trainee. We're using Markin Ring of Majesty, and we're using Willpower. Alright, those are the sets. You can adjust accordingly, but all of these work in no CP besides Balorg. So you're going to have to change that out. You can use a different monster set with a static bonus, or you can just do a couple 1 pieces like I do. You get Valken for penetration, and then you can get Balorg for spell damage, or whatever you want to do. Alright, there's a bunch of options. So that is what I'm using for the gear. Let me know what you think down below. Alright, you can change whatever you see fit. I'm just giving you ideas. Alright, so the front bar. We are using Power of the Light. Now, I'll be honest with you, Power of the Light is kind of shit. Like, it's not the same as it used to be, but it's a must. It's kind of our burst. It kind of lines up everything, and it gives Minor Breach. I mean, you can't complain about that, right? So, you put it on someone, it does damage in itself, and then it marks them for 6 seconds. It applies Minor Breach for 10 seconds, which reduces their armor, and then after it's over, it does almost 5,000, which can be boosted by 200%. I mean, it's pretty good. It can do a decent amount of damage if it crits, or if you get the full damage bonus on it, but it's tough to do. It really is. So I don't know. It's tough to do. I like it. I think it's a must. Really good getting that extra pen. So it's okay. If you line up your meteor and you're stunned when that pops, you're probably gonna do some good damage. So keep that in mind too. What I do is I try to use my meteor when there's about 2 seconds left on Power of the Light, and then I use it. So that's what I do. So Javelin. Alright, Javelin's our bread and butter stun. This skill is perfect to line up with meteor. It does 5,300, and it does a knockback, and it can't be blocked. Alright, and it ignores resistances. So it actually does a pretty good amount of damage, and it does extra damage depending on how far you are away. So it's actually really good. I'm a big fan of this skill. It's one of the best skills in the game, I think. One of the best stuns in the game. Perfect for exactly what we want to do. So very, very good. Insanely good skill. I'll tell you the combos in a second. Alright, so next we're using Elemental Susceptibility. So this is our Major Breach. So we have access to Minor Breach with this, and we have Major Breach with this. When you apply it to a target, you automatically apply Burning, Chilled, and Concuss. So Burning's going to give that dot. Alright, so you don't have a dot technically on the build, which you could if you want, but yeah, you're getting those status effects without having to worry about applying them in another way. Alright, so that's really, really good. Bread and butter skill. Here we're using Radiant Glory. You can use Radiant Destruction. I don't care what you use, but I like this version just because I get a heal, and I feel like there's no difference. They're going to die anyways, right? I mean, let's be honest here. They're dying regardless. So that's how I feel about it. Alright, so obviously it's a must. This skill is insane. You can literally have an impact in a fight just by using this skill. So, yeah. Here we go. So Force Pulses are spammable. Now, you don't have to use this. I like it. It's just easier than using Dark Flare, but Dark Flare does have its uses. So I switch back and forth between the two depending on what I'm doing. Now, if I'm dueling, I'm probably using this. If I'm in BGs, I might use Dark Flare because people don't notice me as much. This skill does a ton of damage. It's spammable. It also does AoE damage if people are affected by its status effects. That's kind of why I use it, because it boosts your damage a ton. But you do have the option, if you want to use Dark Flare. Now, Dark Flare hits hard. It does over 9k and increases your class abilities by 5%. So this will do more damage. This will do more damage. This does more damage, right? So things like that. So that's a nice bonus. And also probably even better is that it applies Major Defile, which reduces their healing received by 16%. So if you're using this as your spammable, you're going to have 100% uptime on Major Defile. So it is a really good skill. I'm not even going to lie to you. It's a good skill. But for me, I don't like the cast time on it. It's a little bit annoying. So I usually end up going with Force Pulse. But again, this is completely up to you. Dark Flare has its uses. It's viable. So if you want to use Dark Flare, go right ahead. Don't let anyone stop you. So Ice Comet, look how hard that hits. 17,000 before our Balrog proc. Once our Balrog proc is hitting like over 20k. Alright, so it knocks them down, it stuns them, it reduces their movement speed, it does AoE damage on the ground. So this is basically the skill that carries our build. You're going to combo it with Javelin, Power of the Light, and Radiant Glory to basically melt everyone. This skill is insane. I don't know what else to say about it. It's an insanely good skill. On the back bar, we have Channeled Focus. Earlier, so I said our recovery is 1300. That's not true at all, because when we use this skill, which is our armor buff, we're getting 242 magic every second. Think about it. 242 magic every second. Do you know what recovery is? Every 2 seconds. My magic recovery is 1300 every 2 seconds. So this gives me 480 recovery. 480. I don't know why this skill is so overpowered. I don't know why they only made it cost 1,000, but it is so broken. 480 recovery just for using your magic or your armor ability. You literally get the cost of the ability back in 6 seconds. That's crazy to me. You're literally making, in lack of better words, you're making a profit off of magic with this skill. That is ridiculous to me. Anyways, nonetheless, you also heal while you're in it, if that makes it any better. Alright, so you're healing. Look at me. I'm healing for 2k a second. 2k a second. That is insane if you're standing in the area, because the 600 gets buffed by 200%. If you leave the area, as you can see, you run out, you get healed for 700. Alright, but yeah. This skill is literally insane. It's one of the best single skills in the game, I think. It's ridiculous. And then on top of it, Templar also has access to a cleanse. So you cleanse 5 effects from yourself and you start healing over time. So if you pair these two, you see how much we're getting healed? Just from using our buffs and our cleanse. Crazy, crazy, crazy skill. Alright. Last reason, Honor the Dead. To top it all off, this skill heals like a truck. Alright. Heals hard. On top of it, anyone under 75% restores 18% of the ability cost every 2 seconds as magic. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? That's ridiculous. You're getting over 50% of the skill back when you're under 75% health. So essentially, this skill basically only costs 2,300. That's crazy. You're getting 400 recovery from this. You're getting a bunch of magic back from this. Like, it's just crazy. It really is. And then we're using Elusive Mist. Now, Elusive Mist for me is an absolute must on this build, and it's a must on every build. So, you basically can teleport. Boom. Afterwards, you get movement speed, and on an Orc, it's buffed by 10%. So you get Major Evasion, and you get Major Expedition. So Major Evasion is going to produce you AoE damage. So if you're trying to run away and you're in low health, use this, and you'll be very tanky. Alright, so having access to that is very good. Lastly, we're using Living... Is that Living Dark? Yeah. Living Dark. Alright. For me, Living Dark is actually ridiculous. Alright, now think about it this way. You're getting healed for like 1,800 every second with this. You're getting healed by about 1,900 every second with this. And then you use this. You're getting healed 2,200 every half second. Every half second. Every time you take damage, you're getting healed for 2,200. So essentially, in an ideal world, which is not perfect, you're getting a 4,400 heal a second. You kidding me? And it reduces the movement speed of the attackers. So it reduces their movement speed. This is insane. So if you're a range build, and you're attacking people, and they're hitting you back, they will take forever to get to you. So very, very, very good skill. Now, you do have an option. You don't have to use that. If you feel like you're too tanky, you can use this for recovery. If you don't want to use that, you could use Reflective Light for a dot and your crit bonus. Right, that's completely up to you. Now, we also get minor sorcery here. So, where is it? So, our spell damage was 5,300. We use this. It's up to 5,700 already before we even use Ballard. Alright, so like I said, it's ridiculously good. Alright, so those are, and then on the back bar we use Light's Champion, which gives you Major Force. Sorry, not Minor Force. Major Force. Extra crit damage for 8 seconds, and it heals you for 12k every second. Alright, so this skill's insane. Now, I just want to see if I can get my buff, my Ballard proc real quick. Let's see. Get out of here. Alright, do we have our ult? Yes. Alright, let's find some little dude to kill real quick. Alright, there's enemies here. So, you use this, you use that, you pop your meteor, you stun them, and you finish them. Did we see how much damage that just did? Our meteor did like 20k. Our finisher did about 40k. Alright, and then we're over 6k. We're up over 6k spell damage, and we're up over 11,000 about. 11,000 penetration before our minor and major breach. That is insane. Right, so that is why I run what I run. It hits like a truck. Now, lastly, we'll go over CP. I'm going to give you a disclaimer. I don't play CP that much. I usually play BGs and no CP Imperial City. That's just what I like to do. But I need to probably change this, but we have AoE damage. Oh no, I'm sorry, direct damage. Reduces damage taken. We have reduces damage taken again, and then we're using spell damage. Now I would probably switch I would probably switch these two to single target damage, but it is what it is. I like to have reduced damage taken. It's just what I like to do. Alright, and then the last one here, we're reducing damage taken by every negative effect on you. I feel like that's a must. We're getting recovery. We are taking less damage when we're on CC cooldown, and we're getting armor. Alright, so that is what I run. Again, CP is not my specialty, so if you don't agree with me, I completely understand. But this is me back with another build video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what you think down below, and have a great, amazing, marvelous, spectacular day. Thank you.